Welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to roll up our sleeves and act like ecological engineers to build a fascinating, closed-loop biological machine. Today, we're exploring a system that literally transforms solar energy and atmospheric gases into sustainable agricultural inputs. It's a blueprint for the future of farming, and honestly, the whole shebang starts with rethinking exactly how we generate fertilizer.
Let's secure our future together. We have the science. That bold vision from the neo-pioneer movement really sets the high stakes for our global agricultural systems, doesn't it? It challenges us to replace synthetic, chemically derived inputs with advanced biological science. And it's not just a nice idea. It's a necessary paradigm shift for the survival of modern agriculture. We have the science, so how exactly do we apply it?
Okay, here's our roadmap for today. 1. Securing our agricultural future. 2. The monoculture bottleneck. 3. The biological polyculture engine. 4. Layering the pond ecosystem. And 5. The closed-loop feedback cycle. Let's dive right in. Section 1. Securing our agricultural future. Now, securing our agricultural future means addressing the sheer, massive magnitude of our current farming operations. We've got to look at the physical scale required to feed our modern world, particularly in places like the United States. While biological strategies, like utilizing the nitrogen-fixing fern Azolla, have long been successfully used in East Asian rice paddies, scaling them up is a totally different beast. When you try to apply this to massive U.S. corn operations spanning 1,000 acres, you introduce some really intense physical and thermodynamic trade-offs. The land footprint, the water requirements, and the pure material handling required to replace synthetic anhydrous ammonia are just staggering.
Section 2. The monoculture bottleneck.
So to truly understand these trade-offs and why this hasn't been widely adopted yet, we need to look at this incredible little fern called Azolla and explore why it struggles when grown on its own. Actually, a pure Azolla monoculture pretty much breaks down its scale for 3 primary reasons. First, thermal limits. Corn Belt springs are simply way too cold, and Azolla goes dormant or straight up dies below 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Second, to fix nitrogen, its nitrogenase enzyme requires a massive amount of energy, meaning the ponds need continuous phosphorus inputs. And finally, the dewatering mass. Moving more than 30 tons per acre of wet slurry requires a massive amount of diesel or electric power. It's just not efficient by itself.
Section 3. The biological polyculture engine.
So Azolla is basically a miracle plant, drawing fertility literally from thin air. But to fix these fundamental engineering flaws, it needs a partner to build a self-feeding cycle. Notice the clear division of labor we have going on here. Azolla pulls nitrogen from the atmosphere and continuously secretes organic nitrogen right into the water. Duckweed, on the other hand, can't fix nitrogen from the air, but it aggressively scavenges that dissolved nitrogen Azolla just spit out, rapidly doubling its biomass to become up to 40% crude protein. Plus, duckweed acts as a thermal buffer, meaning it keeps photosynthesizing all the way down to 41 degrees Fahrenheit, which really extends the operational season. Together, their overlapping mat also suppresses toxic algae blooms, and they do it without any chemical algicides.
Right, but there's a catch. Our engine still needs phosphorus to run Azolla's highly demanding nitrogenase enzyme, and that brings us to the absolute genius of the Integrated Multi-Trophic Aquaculture System, or IMTA. Basically, this is a self-balancing pond architecture that mixes different species of animals and plants to perfectly recycle critical limiting nutrients.
Section 4. Layering the pond ecosystem.
All right, let's look at the blueprint and literally dive down into the pond. We are going to add the living gears to our engine, layer by layer, turning it into a complete biofertilizer factory, starting up at the surface with ducks, moving through the middle water column with tilapia, down to the benthic floor with catfish, and outward to the shoreline reeds. Every single ecological niche serves a strict operational function to balance this whole system out. Let's break down exactly how these layers solve our nutrient bottlenecks.
Starting right at the top, the surface canopy. Here, ducks serve as our primary phosphorus injectors. They process fibrous plant matter and bugs into guano that is super concentrated in phosphorus and potassium. And wouldn't you know it, that is the exact fuel Azolla's nitrogenase enzyme demands to function. They also agitate the surface, which allows for better air exchange. But you've got to watch them. Without strict rotational grazing control, a small flock will literally eat your entire pond's floating canopy in a matter of days. No joke.
Moving down into the pelagic zone, the middle of the water, we bring in herbivorous and omnivorous fish like tilapia or grass carp. And get this, here is a truly wild fact for you.
Unlike cows or pigs that lose nitrogen to volatilizing urine, these midwater fish excrete up to 80% of their nitrogenous waste directly across their gills as ionic ammonium. That means the nitrogen is instantly available to be slurped up by the duckweed roots without needing any microbial breakdown first. Plus, obviously, they provide a great clean animal protein harvest.
Now, diving all the way down to the very bottom, the detrital zone, we find our cleanup crew, channel catfish and freshwater prawns. You see, sinking duck guano and dead foliage settle on the pond bed. These bottom dwellers are constantly digesting this waste, which stops deep, oxygen-depleted sludge pockets from forming and off-gassing toxic hydrogen sulfide. And by stirring up the mud all day, they also resuspend bound mineral phosphates straight back into the water column for the floating roots up top to capture. It's perfectly balanced.
Section 5. The closed-loop feedback cycle.
Okay, so the crucial point here is, how do we actually harvest all this brilliant biological activity and turn it into a usable fertilizer for massive row crops? To do this, we use an anaerobic biodigester, but we immediately run into a bit of a chemistry problem. Pure harvested duckweed is just too wet and nitrogen-rich. If you try to ferment it on its own, it sours and turns into putrid volatile fatty acids, and this perfectly illustrates why we rely on that shoreline layer, emergent reeds like cattails or bulrush. We add those chopped, dry shoreline reeds to provide the necessary high-carbon lignocellulose. Mix it all together and you hit that perfect 25-to-1 carbon-to-nitrogen ratio required for efficient fermentation.
So the process basically goes down in 3 steps. First, we harvest the high-nitrogen duckweed and azolla and mix it with those high-carbon reed stalks and some sinking sludge. Second, this mix goes straight into the anaerobic digester. This step is absolutely vital because raw duckweed nitrogen is locked up tight inside tough cell walls in complex proteins. Applying it directly to a field would give you really slow, unpredictable results. The digester breaks those tough walls down. Finally, we extract a liquid biofertilizer packed with highly bioavailable proteolyzed ammonium and peptides that are instantly ready for farm use, while simultaneously capturing the resulting off-gas.
And to perfectly complete our closed-loop engine, we take that captured off-gas, specifically the high concentrations of carbon dioxide from the fermentation process, and pipe it straight back into the enclosed surface canopy of the pond. By pumping 800 to 1200 parts per million of CO2 back to those plants, we rapidly accelerate their rubisco enzyme. This dramatically decreases the time it takes for the biomass to double. It is a true self-feeding engine.
This whole self-balancing system really presents a massive paradigm shift for us to ponder. By smartly teaming up azolla, duckweed, ducks, fish, and reeds, we completely solve the engineering bottlenecks of thermal limits, phosphorus demand, and crazy dewatering costs. We create a biological machine that literally draws fertility from the air and sun. So I'm going to leave you with this question. If a brilliantly layered multi-trophic pond can eventually outperform traditional synthetic chemical plants, does the true future of sustainable, heavy agricultural scale actually lie in returning to nature's biological engines? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the future.